Okay. Greetings, everybody. Keith here, hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life, as always. And we're back at you tonight with some more Hitler's willing executioners. We're going to finish it up tonight. We've gone through enough of it to get the idea across that the statistics and the psychology of the people applying themselves to those very systematic statistical venues is a large portion of the problem. And if we don't know we're doing that, it comes upon us very easily to get sucked into doing so and fall into false ideologies along the way. So first of all, I want to remind everybody, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Like I said, we are back up on Keith Little and El Perro, as well as always going on Hecklebus. So please hit the like, share, and subscribe. If you're on one or the other, get over to the others and do the same. There's a PayPal links down in the details section for anybody that does want to share some love. It's always appreciated, even 10, 20, 50, 30, 50 bucks, whatever you can help with, always appreciated. Your support here on the panels, along the channel, in the comment section, everything's welcome and appreciated. And of course, the StreamYard link is pinned for anybody that wants to join the stream. We're going to go ahead and get started here, but let me take a quick break and I'll be right back with you. Okay, my apologies there. So again, with Hitler's willing executioners, the last portion I'm going to read from the book, like I said, there's you can get this book, Hitler's Willing Executioners, Ordinary Germans and the Holocaust, Daniel Jonah Goldhagen. And as a reminder, just like in the Postal Service issue, I'm not here as an enemy of the state, the government, or anybody. I'm just here putting out information and opinions in my commentary of the things that I observe in my actual firsthand experiences. They're nothing but opinions. It comes under fair use limitation on exclusive rights. So we're going to continue on with this. And section 9 is police battalions, lives, killings, and motives. And I'm not going to get too deep into this because, like I said, most of it is just reiteration of what I've already been posing for a number of years, and the importance of realizing what you're doing when you're adding those data elements into these various different jurisdictional systems and becoming party to that. Again, in my opinion, those actions provide for evolving ideologies in falsehoods. And we really need to learn how to get back to our roots and origins. So this part is going to talk about the psychology part. I'm going to touch on that. And then I'm going to lead, like I said, this is going to be the last time I'm going to read of this book. It's up to you guys to do your research anyway. That's why I tell you, don't believe me, don't believe the neighbor, don't believe the government. For crying out loud, don't believe your mother. Do your research so you know. And it starts out with one of my favorite terms in regards to all this etymology and everything I've been studying, in surveying, as in survey. The genocidal contributions of Police Battalion 101 and other police battalions, it becomes easy to review the perpetrators only through the prism of their murderous deeds. In other words, they're talking about not taking into account their actual private lives and what kind of jobs they held, what kind of education they had, how they were raised as children, this and that. It's all a matter of developing the psychology. And in these modern times, the psychology is more ingrained towards societal living rather than natural. And that's where those false ideologies come in. This produces some distortion. The extraordinary character of the killing operations, not surprisingly, leads many to consider the perpetrators and their deeds in isolation, sequestered from the rest of human social activity, from the normal workings of society, in part because the genocidal deeds seem not to inhabit the same social or moral universe, but belong to a special sub-universe of reality. In other words, this is like what I was saying in regards to the Christianity coming about, and just by its own presence creates an anti-Semitic ideology. And this again is just my own expression that I don't believe in any of the writings, the Judaism, the Christianity, the Muslim, the laws of the United States. I don't believe in them. What I do is I learn how they say much like the same things throughout the different writings. They just say them in different ways, but they're basically saying the same context of the spiritual intent of the word. And this is why it's important to break down those words. Survey, again, look at it. It's sir. What's they? So you have to think about that. This can lead to character of the perpetrators and their lives. And again, this is the concept like Kunta Kinte and being a slave. When he was a free man, he had his own ideologies and people called him a certain thing. When somebody tried to subject their ideology of slavery and his position in it, they tried to force upon him their idea of the name and tried to force him to take on the name Toby. And he refused to give up his natural name that he already came to know. He realized that was a change in ideology. It's like a change in personality. This goes to the personality disorders. These Germans partook in activities other than genocidal slaughter. In other words, they had their own social lives, and they lived a social existence. Understanding them and their deeds requires that the non-killing aspect of their lives be acknowledged and investigated. And again, this goes to the psychology of how they grew up and their social element that then allowed them to take upon the false ideology that totally destroyed their entire social upbringing in regards to image and likeness. We're all humans, we're all man, we're all children of God, this and that. And then somebody along the way created the ideology that this particular type of people is a blight on the rest of people, and therefore they should be excluded somehow. Whereas they actually recognize them as being existent prior to them. Therefore, whatever came after must be either subject to them or outside of them. And if you profess that you're outside of something that came before, then you're professing a different origin, pure and simple. Let's see here. Their cultural activities, the police clubs, recreation centers, canteens, the sporting events, movies, plays, religious activities, emotional attachments like the family tributes and stuff to birthdays and marriages and all that, and moral discussion and injunction present a stark, even jarring contrast to their apocalyptic deeds. And that's reflecting again on what I just said, that they have a basic foundation of a social organization of acceptance, and then the ideology is an exclusion. So somewhere along the line, they became confused in that and didn't realize that their actual intent of acceptance was then rejected by the acceptance of that which came before them and their acceptance into that. Now they're rejecting that. So there's an obvious switch. And usually it's psychological. It's greed, gluttony, pride, those kind of things. People that refuse to humiliate themselves and humble themselves as being lesser than the greatest power there is. Most people don't want to let that ego subside to something that's greater. They think that ego is the greatness, and it's not. It's the knowledge. That's where your power comes from. The perpetrators had free time, which they could use, depending on where they were stationed, for a variety of activities that allowed, even prompted them to activate their moral faculties and to take a personal, individual stance. In other words, if you look at that right, they were helping them to manifest in the subservience to two masters. You're master to us while you're placating here, but then when you go off and you go ahead and master yourself under that mastership. See, that's the duality that they get you to play in, and you think that's proper, and it's not. The ego is meant to hold one station in life, and that's to know thyself and the power of the knowledge that ego holds. That's the limitation of the ego, is the knowledge. This is where narcissists go wrong. They think they know so much that they know more than everybody else. That's not so. The fallacy of AI as well. The perpetrators had free time, which they could, let me go on to the next sentence since we already read that. Greetings, Nubs. How you doing tonight, brother? Nope, no sound, brother. Nope. Might need to go out and come back. All right, we'll wait for him to come back. In the meantime, we're back to the reading. Whether they were in church, at play, or in a small group, say drinking at a bar and surveying the terrain of their lives, the perpetrators lived in a moral world of contemplation, discussion, and argument. They could not but react, have opinions, and pass judgment on the events, large and small, unfolding before them daily. Events.
Any better?
Again, that's better. And again, this is why I keep telling you, they're using those ad hominems to displace you, disposition you from the event of your true character. And if you learn how to operate in your true character at all times, they can't do that, because your true character isn't named. It changes. That's why I say I've got 10 different personalities here on YouTube, because if I decide I want to change in my presentation to the public, I can do so as the creator of my personalities. And now I think you're frozen, Nub. Yeah, I think we lost him again. Must have bad signal. Looks like he's sitting in a closet like Paul used to. And something happened. Nope, froze again. Anyway, what we're talking about here again is the psychology and that ego, and knowing that in one setting, the social setting, you're more relaxed and comfortable amongst those people that have a relaxed ideology, and they're not all tensed about enforcing a certain and distinguished ideology within bounds and limitations, such as those policies, codes, rules, regulations, and stuff. So we have to remember that if you're going to really truly bring the word of truth, then you have to learn how to bring that word of truth against those false ideologies. You can't live to the best of your abilities if you're allowing those little lies and stuff. those false ideologies, to placate them as a portion of your life. If they play a portion of your life, then that shows a place where you can observantly improve, and failure to do that, and the lack of want to do that, shows ignorance, bliss, gluttony, greed, convenience, complacency, all things that I believe are inherently against our true nature, to be on guard, to be ever watchful, to make assurances that things aren't wrong in the now time. We can't placate to the insurance scheme that says if it goes wrong in the future, we can do this, this, and this, because you can't do that, particularly in these insurance programs that placate they can't insure against acts of God's. Well, that means that they can't insure against my own breath. Therefore, it's not covering me in any sense of the words. It's only covering the person, period. That's the only thing that paper document is about. We're going to discuss that here after we get done here. Some of the men went to church, prayed to God, contemplated the eternal questions, and recited prayers, which reminded them of their obligations to other humans. How quickly they forgot them when they went to work and just started doing their job again. See where we go with that? The Catholics among them took communion and went to confession. And when they went at night to their wives and girlfriends, how many of the killers discussed their genocidal activities with their women and children? See, that's the psychology. They're openly and willingly able and wanting to do stuff in as it relates to just doing my job, because again, they're protected. Their motivation to protect their wives and children is so great that they will do whatever means necessary to take a paycheck home to help them survive, because they've already fallen to the false ideology of personage and that voluntary servitude. So again, I urge you to really look at what you're doing in the volunteerism in those actions. No one's making you do it. There's no law that says you have to have an ID, yet you think you need to have a social security card so you can get an ID, so you can go get a job, so you can just do your job and bring home a paycheck. There's much more value to life than that, I assure you. The next and last part I'm going to read here, I believe, let me double check. Yeah. Placates to the very thing about ministering the word to all creatures. And yet again, somehow by understanding that ideology and showing that not just in our social life, but also in doing our job, is totally contradictory to the fact that we would dismiss an entire population of people's lives, let alone even one other life. The desire to prevent illness in police dogs can be seen as having purely a utilitarian measure. The ties of affection binding one SS general to his dog, however, were also capable of moving genocidal agents into action. See, while they were killing other people because of some seemingly greater bondage to a dog, they enforce social morals and objectives in their genocidal rampages to search out a lost dog while they were killing and slaughtering people. The ties of affection binding one SS general to his dog, however, were also capable of moving genocidal agents to action. In October 1942, the men of Police Regiment 25 learned in a postscript to a regimental order that a 14-month-old yellow German shepherd answering to the name of Harry had weeks earlier jumped from a train near Lublin and had not yet been recovered. All stations, the order continued, are requested to look for the German shepherd so that he may be returned to his master. They were caring more about a dog that was lost in the wilderness that could actually probably take care of himself very well out there, and wanted to make sure he could return to his master so he could have a nice plush life and be treated well. Whereas at the same time, the people that are supposed to have dominion out in that wild probably can't survive and are in fact being hunted down and slaughtered. You see the just total contradiction there? The regimental headquarters was to be notified upon the dog's capture. Owing to their missions in search of hidden Jews, most of the men receiving this order were already acclimated to scouring the countryside. Perhaps each one kept an eye peeled for the dog as he continued combing the terrain for every last Jew. So while he was looking for Jews, he was also looking for a dog, but at the same time looking for those two different, quote, creatures. One was distinctly an image and likeness and was abhorred so much they were hunting him down to kill him. The other was viewed in the image and likeness of a man's best friend and held inherently more value morally and socially. The dog's fate, if indeed he ever was found, was greatly preferable to that of the Jews, because if they found the dog, they'd take him back and feed him. If they found a Jew, they'd put him through torture before they kill him. In every respect, the Germans would have agreed it was better to be a dog. And I'm telling you here today that there's going to come a same day where those events are going to repeat themselves. And I'm not saying I'm going to be the one directing it. I just have a very strong inclination that because history repeats itself already, it's not going to stop repeating itself. And when those events happen again, those people that are going to be hunted down for what they are, they're going to wish they were a dog. So anyway, I want to take a real quick moment. Thank everybody for your support. Norman Longstaff, Vic Cunningham, Chosimba, Nubs. Come on back up if you can get a better connection. Anybody else out there? Appreciate all the support. I really do. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button, whether you're on any one of the three channels. And if you're on the one, get over to the others and do the same to help the algorithms. There are a couple PayPal links down in the details section for anybody that wants to share some love. The StreamYard link is pinned for anybody that wants to join the panel. And before we get into the rest of tonight's program, which is going to be not quite Hitler's Willing Executioner, but we're going to continue on into some shorts and show you how the socialization program that we have today is bringing about those same false ideologies that's going to help history repeat itself, where one group is going to be big enough to say, okay, this group is a problem, we need to annihilate them. That's what history does. And I'm going to urge you to really seriously contemplate what you're doing to yourself and your children these days. So let's start with, again, I like etymology and stuff, and so we're going to pull up the term journal. And we're going to start out with journal. You've heard me talking about journal here lately as it relates to the general journal and general ledger, administrative journal and administrative ledger. Okay. Similar words, and this is from Oxford Languages. As a noun, a newspaper or magazine that deals with a particular subject or professional activity, subject or event. So it's a particular or specific subject or activity. It can be professional or private. Doesn't have to be, as they say, professional. Professing is your own profession of what you do. In that context, it's your professional, and it's the events of your profession. It's your story. It's your journey. It's your journal. Professional journal. Same thing. It's what you profess. Similar words, in other words, synonyms, things that mean the same thing. So, periodical, publication, magazine, gazette, digest, professional organ, review, newsletter, news sheet, bulletin, newspaper, paper, 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 daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. We went from a noun that describes things, to time periods, concepts, also known as things, in a different specific area of grammar or denotation or classification. These are material subjects. These are times, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. Number 2 context, a daily record of news and events of a personal nature, a diary, or of a private nature. Similar, diary, day-by-day account, daily record, log, logbook, weblog, blog, vlog, moblog, yearbook, chronicle, register, paper, register, notebook, commonplace book, annals, history, daybook, register. The next word. It is a synonym with journal. Register. An official list or record. For example, meaning parable. Same thing. Of births, marriages, and deaths. Of shipping or of historic places. A membership register. Official list. Listing. Roll. Roster. Index. Directory. Oration. Direction. Direction of oration. Catalog. Schedule. Inventory. Invent oration. Oration of invention. Invent. Thought. Tally, as in daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. Calendar, same. Record, chronicle, diary, journal, logbook, logbook, ledger, archive, annals, files, to record and file in an index directory. A book or record of attendance For example, of students in a class or school or guests in a hotel. The system requires teachers to take the register at each lesson. Register. Accounting. A particular part of the range of a voice or instrument. A particular part of the range of a voice or instrument. His voice moved up a register. Similar. Range, area, region, reaches, sweep, voice, notes. Octaves. A sliding device controlling a set of organ pipes which are a tonal quality. A set of organ pipes so controlled. Linguistics. A variety of a language or a level of usage, as determined by degree of formality. As determined by a degree of formality. Those are two suffixes added on to the root word form, wherein God formed the man of the dust of the ground. And when he breathed the breath of life into his nostrils, that man became a living soul, and he has informed a voice that is a prophet unto the nations. A choice of vocabulary. This is where I say a man's intellect is limited and biased by his own vocabulary. Greetings, Russ.
Greetings, brother.
How's it going, man?
Pretty good. I just saw you were live. Figured I'd pop up and hang out with you a bit.
Awesome. Yeah, we got a bit to go yet. I'm just going over a register right now as it relates to journal, as it's synonymous, and we find out it's synonymous with files and index and directory and journal and inventory and schedule and all these other things. And I'm trying to show everybody that if you can't coin your words, then you really need to purse your lips, because as it goes, register and all these different categories mean slightly different things. And it's amazing when you see the linguistics, a variety of a language or a level of usage. You have there's a nation now today known as the United States of America, and their reading comprehension average is about 7th or 8th grade, which is a level of usage, and their laws are written about the 24th grade. Now, most people think the highest you can go is 12th grade, because that's when they graduate from high school, walk out those doors, and don't do another fucking thing to learn more than what they were taught. They think they've already learned it all. They become narcissistic, egotistical, Dunning-Krugers. They think they know it all. They think they're smarter than everybody else. And the reality is they're dumb as fucking box of rocks.
That's definitely true.
As determined by a degree of formality and choice of vocabulary, pronunciation, and syntax. Choice. You have a choice of the words to use. Choose coin your words or purse your lips according to the communicative purpose, social context, and social status of the user. Again, the vocabulary. A man's intellect is limited and biased by his own vocabulary. It shows the social status of the user. Printing, photography, the exact correspondence of the position of color components in a printed positive. It was reproduced in full color, but unfortunately out of register. Printing, the exact correspondence of the printed or the position of printed matter on the two sides of a page. On the two sides of the page. So when you get a document and they have a correspondence on one side and it poses a position of the subject in the printed matter, then you can flip it over, and according to UCC 3-402, put your directive as the authorized representative, giving an unambiguous signature as the authorized representative on the instrument, and therefore not be liable for the person named in the instrument. So you can flip it over and give your directive to clear the ledger, clear the accounting. It's that simple, folks. In electronic devices, a location in a store, and this is where they warehouse. This little chip here, that's a warehouse, folks. Synonymously in use, it's a store for massive information. It's a warehouse used for a specific purpose and with quick access time. An adjustable plate for widening or narrowing and opening and regulating a draft, especially in a fire grate, as in a forge. A widening or narrowing of an opening and regulating draft. Would that be the upper and lower plates of your mouth, wherein you render the heated words in your arguments? Art, one of a number of bands or sections into which a D sign is divided. So when you sign in person and you are partaking, you are taking one part of something that was divided for many. North American, short for cash register. As a verb, register, third person present. Third person present. Registers, past tense. Registered, past participle. Registered, gerund of present participle. Registering, enter or record on an official list or directory. Enter or record on an official list or directory. This goes to the franking that I was discussing with Flow State and his accusation that I'm committing mail fraud by counterfeiting and forging stamps. I did not enter anything into the mails. It was not entered or recorded. It has a official list or directory that holds no name. If you will look on the postal franking or prepaid postal impression, as they call it, prepaid postal impression, you will see it has no name on it. It's a clear, short instruction that it's prepaid through this certain number for this amount, 1-to-1 ratio. There's no dollar sign. There's no mention of dollar. It's bordered in red. according to the UPU. What is it? I can't remember what they call them now. They're the general orders per se of the Universal Postal Union, and it clearly it discusses franking, and they're like 57 different places, and it tells you all about it. Tells you how you can pink the edges. You can, which is if you look at a regular stamp, it's got that wavy edge. It's called pinking. It's not a straight edge. It's so that you can rip them off from a sheet of 100. 1 cent. 1% them. Enter or record on an official list or directory is by use of a postage stamp. But to pass through the mails, you use what's known as a prepaid postal impression, showing that it's already been paid and there is no need to buy another stamp. Similar is record, put on record, enter, file, lodge, post, set down. Like when you discover a new land and you set down your post and claim the land by putting a flag on that post. Inscribe, write down, put in writing, submit, report, as in import, export, take down, note, note. So when you enter or record an official on an official list or directory, it's same as a note. United States Code and the Federal Register are notes. It is a promise if it is a note. Minute, as in daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, minutely, a part, a minute part, not minute, minute. List, log, catalog. Enter one's name and other details on an official list or directory. Enroll, put one's name down. Enlist, enter, sign on, sign up, apply, go in for, check in, put one's name in a register as a guest in a hotel, of a couple to be married, have a list of wedding gifts compiled and kept at a store for consultation by gift buyers. Have a list of wedding gifts compiled and kept at a store for consultation by gift buyers. Entrust, a letter or parcel, otherwise known as a manifold dispatch article, to a post office for transmission by registered mail. Entrust, to a post office for transmission by registered mail. They are already the trustee as a registered agent. This is all in the public domain, folks. This is all for your own education. I don't understand why you don't learn how to read. Of an instrument, detect and show automatically. Indicate, read, record, show, display, display, express or convey an opinion or emotion. I wish to register an objection. Similar is display, show, express, exhibit, evince, betray, disclose, evidence, reveal, manifest, demonstrate, reflect, bespeak, testify to, betoken. Of an emotion, show in a person's face or gestures, nothing registered on their faces. Properly notice or become aware of something. The first duty of law is giving legal notice. Make an impression on a person's mind. Make an impression. Get through. See, the prepayment postal impression sends it through the mail, so it can reach its final destination and sink in, be planted in firmness, fall into place, penetrate. See, that sperm is to make an impression on mama's egg. It has to get through. It has to sink in. It has to fall into place. You have to penetrate. What do you got to say, Russ? Let's take a moment and speak on this. Hello. Okay, so it seems like Russ walked off, but that's okay.
Nope. I'm here. I'm just having difficulties.
All right. So what do you think about that synonymous tone and how it works throughout all those jurisdictions, so you can see exactly what I'm telling you people about with the prepaid postal impression and how it goes through the mail, and how if you're going to do your coin your word, purse your lips, it has to be able to be a pass through. See, it's not my words. I am just a pass through, and it's going from a point of origin to a final destination, which is the heart of the person or other man or individual or natural being, whatever you want to call them, that I'm trying to converse with. I pose no arguments. I only pose that I'm a pass-through, and I want you to see what I see. If you can't see it, that's fine. But to sit there and say that I'm committing falsities and frauds and point out some illegitimate ideology doesn't fit the ideology of truth. And that's what they don't get.
Right.
So
I mean, when I go and read some of that stuff after watching a little bit of your presentment on it, and then I'm amazed at how there's like 2 different levels or 3 different levels to use these words. Most of them.
Well, if you remember Bill Clinton in his 15 minutes of fame during the cigar scandal, he said, well, it depends on what your definition of is. And would you know, there's 21 different uses of the 2-word or 2-letter word is. 21 different uses for is.
It's amazing.
So the next one to kind of brighten the room and lighten the load, I've got something I came across. My companion sent it to me yesterday, and I got a good chuckle out of it. So I wanted to share it with everybody, because you guys know me as a scriptural guy, and hallelujah, my saving grace is the scripture, and it's a musical thing to me. And I've got a very eclectic musical background, and I love the way this guy put it together, because it's so fitting to the law is specific, the grammar is specific, and so are the tunes and the verses in the songs, but not maybe as specific as you might think they are. So enjoy.
Do you know that when because I told you my dad was a minister of music. Do you know that one time my dad asked me, I was like 7 years old, and my dad asked me to sing Amazing Grace in front of the whole congregation. And I did it, and I got a spanking for it. I bet you'd like to hear that story, wouldn't you? Because, see, I remember getting asked to do it, but 7 years old, I mean, I had heard that song so much. And I didn't really know what it meant, but it was boring to me because it was just over and over. They'd sing it every week. And so when my dad said, you know, would you do Amazing Grace in front of the congregation? I knew the words, but I was kind of bored with the tune. And so, but when he got me up there, you know, I was up there, and right before I sang, I remembered that I had noticed the words to Amazing Grace would fit perfectly into my mother's favorite song, which was Ghost Riders in the Sky. So I said, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. And within there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Praise the Lord. Let's hear it for Jesus, the Holy Ghost Rider in the sky. And so, you know how how you're laughing right now. The congregation did that too, but my daddy wasn't laughing, and he kind of went over to me, and he leaned down and he said, "You know, that wasn't what I was expecting. So try it again." And I thought, ooh. Well, I had also noticed that the words to Amazing Grace would fit perfectly into the music of a song that I heard my grandfather play on his record player behind the barn. I didn't really know what the song was about, but it was called House of the Rising Sun. And I also knew, I thought at that moment, my mom likes Elvis, so I thought I'd throw a little of that in there too. And when my dad backed away, I said, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. And when my dad took a step toward me, I took a step back and I said, thank you very much. And he walked up to me and he said, one more chance. So I thought, well, maybe those versions were too slow. Because I had also noticed that the words to Amazing Grace would fit perfectly into the theme song from my favorite television show, Gilligan's Island. So I said, dun, 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 Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. Was blind, but now I see. And that's when I got the spanking.
Yeah, that's funny. Muted. You're muted. What the hell's going
I
on?
was staying on electrical cord, so I had to ground him. He's doing better currently in conducting himself properly.
My kid asked me, do trees poop? I said, where do you think number 2 pencils come from?
And my apologies. I guess I just realized I was muted. That was one of my favorite things when it comes to my childhood and reflecting back, especially when I heard that last one with Gilligan's Island. I just fell off my chair. It was just so funny. And so the next one here with the comedy. Now we're going to get into the shorts that I've been doing lately as it relates to all the different false ideologies and all the rights activism, you know, the civil rights, the feminist rights, the gay and bi rights. Now we've got the transgender rights and everything. And all they are is just false ideologies that are getting people to enter into statistical gamefare, warfare, trying to issue their own order. And they don't even know what a true order is. And that's the confusion. That's that public education indoctrination that we instill upon our children because we feel it's inherent now. It's been going on for a number of generations, and it's not going to be long before we're going to be in this dystopia of complete confusion, illusion, and false ideologies. And that's where we fall victim to idolizing ourselves and everything but that which is true and real. And so I urge everybody to get up off your couch and start looking at things for what they are, because you certainly are harming yourself and your future generations without even knowing it. This complacency and comfort and convenience is a bunch of hogwash. It placates into the thing that you can live off of your own existence. No, you got to put something into it. I urge you, learn how to get up off your ass and start doing things.
If I may offer a piece of advice that says that it's already here, yesterday's conversation, when somebody did not understand, somebody as posted, he did not understand the general premise of counterfeit versus an original piece. And I say we're already in that state of confusion, utter confusion.
Well,
and it's not to come, it is current.
Right, and that's where he got off on saying that the laws are laid out by Congress and that all people are subject to those laws. No, people created Congress. So how can Congress create laws for the people? They can only create laws for the administration of things that are delegated to Congress. And that's licensure and identification. A licensure, identification, and oaths. Those are the three things that Congress has authority over.
If by people you're talking about the United States version of people, sure, I'll agree. However, I'm saying as far as that goes, but as far as human beings go, the essence, we created that. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to create Congress and walk together in a postal Congress if we didn't recognize it from Psalms 121, verse 8, wherein the Lord preserves thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth, telling us that we can walk with him, and then reaffirming it in Leviticus 25, verses 23 through 25. The land shall not be sold forever, for it is mine. Ye are strangers and sojourners with me. Your duty in all the lands of your possession is grant a redemption to the land. And in those lands where you find your brethren that are waxing poor and have sold off their belongings, you are to come as a kin to buy back their belongings, and therefore you shall redeem them. That's our purpose in life. Period. Owe no man anything but to love one another, and that is to fulfill the law. So when we go around loving each other, that is the redemption. That's what we're supposed to pay forward, as that movie said, pay it forward. Period.
And correct behavior is the truest form of love.
Yes. And this first one here is going to go to that as it relates to the station in life, and the differences in those stations in life between man and woman.
Do I think women should guard the White House? No, I don't think I should either. It's not sexist to say that women can't do big physical labor things as good as giant men can. But people will tell you it is. Well, I'm not sexist. As a matter of fact, my favorite people are all female. I have a wife and I have 3 daughters. They're my favorite people in the world. But I could beat the out of all of them.
Yeah, the fact that this has even become remotely controversial is super funny to me. But that's also because every movie you see has like a 100-pound woman beating up 300-pound men, which is not true at all.
Yeah, you're not going to see a little 110-pound woman, basically about my size, beating up on a guy like Paul. It ain't going to happen.
The only way that I could see that, the only way that could be possible is if they knew some form of jujitsu or a grappling sport where size is not your term or your determining factor. Not many women know that. Not many men know that. So there are your exceptions, but I agree with you.
Yeah, and not only that, but it's not often that you're going to have a 110-pound woman that's full on black belt in 3 different venues up against a 360-pound man that ain't got no experience. I guarantee a 360-pound man's been used to throwing his weight around and walking with that weight all of his life. That's a lot of weight to carry, and I guarantee you he knows how to use it. He doesn't need martial arts. It's instinctive. So think about this, folks. You're coming into venues with false ideologies, thinking that you're going to be able to change the venue. It ain't going to happen. The next one placates to at home and abroad and this money scheme. And I guarantee you, I don't agree with any of this because we shouldn't be sending, quote, aid in monetary form for contractual purposes to raise and lower a certain statistic, which is in fact a manipulation, and therefore those statistics are false in that manner. Plus, again, like I said, those statistics are false in the relation to resident. 98% of the people are not in fact residents and cannot be in fact residents.
Well, not only that, the whole process is backwards to begin with itself, isn't it?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can't regulate other people through a process if they didn't consent to that process, and they're the ones that, in fact, qualify that process as a governmental process. See, that means they're getting their qualification from the very people that they're trying to enforce them on.
Yeah.
Aid to Ukraine or send aid to Hawaii?
Send aid to Hawaii.
Why?
It's part of America.
How do you feel about them sending $130 billion to Ukraine on only $700 to the residents of Maui?
Yeah, that's definitely up. I think Biden's influence with Ukraine. America first.
Okay, again, like I said, he said America first. No, it's not America first. That's a nation. You're supposed to be first. If you recognize your place as first, then you don't placate to the monetary system that says it's the solution. It is not the solution. The solution is the people. I don't know if anybody out there wants to argue it, but the board's open, guys. The solution can't come from the system that is the problem. That's the police investigating themselves again. Why do I don't see how people don't see that similarity. But it is what it is. So the next one, we got Joe Rogan again. Watch this.
I got a million ideas.
I'm sure you do.
There's no shortage of that.
Yeah. I just don't know how you manage your time. I don't understand it. It doesn't even seem humanly possible.
There's a million.
That's what I've speculated.
Yes. I might have some mutation or something like that.
You might. Do you think you do?
Probably.
Do you wonder? Like, you're around normal people, you're like,
Normal people. See, that's the thing. It makes it sound like people that see other people as normal, somehow they're awkward or something like that, not normal, when it should be the norm. It should be the norm that people don't walk out of this high school and never learn anything again. It shouldn't be the norm that people placate, that they know enough that they can live the rest of their life and not have to worry about learning anything more. It has never been, in my opinion, I don't see any evidence of it anyway, a material fact that anybody could walk out of high school and never learn anything else in their life. I think life is a learning experience from moment to moment. And if you don't take heed of that learning, then you suffer and die. I think this is the cause of what they call death. Again, like I said earlier on Paul's stream, the humility and humbleness of man, and the thought that they think the meek will inherit the earth is a good thing. I don't think that they are taking that in context right, because if the meek inherit the earth, and that means you're going to be buried in a grave, what is your true inheritance? Is it the earth, or is it the kingdom of heaven? So I urge you to quit being meek, being silent and quiet, and placating that peace is the only way to do things is going to get you killed and thrown in the ground. Learn how to live as the pass through, and pass through this world and inherit your true inheritance, the kingdom of heaven.
Like, what's up with these boring dumb motherfuckers? Ever?
Not bad for a human.
But you must understand there's not a whole lot of human beings like you. You know that, right? So you're an oddity.
Yes.
To chimps like me.
We're all chimps.
Yeah, we are.
We're one notch above a chimp.
Some of us are a little bit more confused. When I watch you doing all these things, I'm like, how does this have all this?
Evidently, according to science, there's only a 2% difference between man and chimp. So he's actually right in that sense that we're not much above a chimp, huh?
Time and all this energy and all these ideas, and then people just let them do these things.
I got a million ideas.
I'm sure you do.
There's no shortage of that. Yeah.
I just don't know.
And as it relates to that, everybody's got millions of ideas. There's no shortage of them. He's absolutely correct. And you know, one of the most profound things I've realized in life is that a lot of ideas have been contemplated time and time again and never brought to the full surface and fruition. And then when the man does bring, there is a man that brings something like that to fruition, he's given credit for it, even though it's well known that somebody else drew drawings of airplanes and things like that. You know what I'm talking about? Da Vinci helicopter. You know, if you want to give it the true perspective, Da Vinci was the inventor of the helicopter, might be, but no, they don't give him credit for that. They give him credit for material that was sourced from him, that gave another man the same kind of idea, but with different materials and different technologies, he was now able to improve upon it in concept and fruition. So he was given the credit. So again, there is no shortage of ideas.
Which is rather ironic because the Wright brothers flew 2 years after a guy in India did it too. Like it's not a new concept that man flew. I mean, he just copied the Vimanas for the most part, only roughly, kind of. But it was, I was watching something, it was really fucking interesting. And then if you look at the Mayan sources, you see things that clearly look like airplanes. And that's speculation, but nevertheless, there wouldn't be a purpose for something like that, to my understanding. And it is,
Exactly.
It is minute.
Exactly. So again, history just repeats itself. Now, this is pure ignorance. Pure ignorance. And I don't see this guy much, but I've come across a couple of his, and I think I might start checking him out some more too.
Whatever happened to men in society? It's videos like this that make China think that they can conquer us.
Want to see the cringiest, most cuddly thing ever? This is called a love surge. And we do this when one of us has like so much love in our limbs that we can't.
Warning, incoming cupcaking, severe cupcaking. If you are subject to anxiety attacks because of these kind of activities, please leave the room and come back in 2 minutes.
Contain it and feel like we're going to explode. So Sean is having a love surge right now, and he's going to wrap around me and shake with the electricity of love until I catch it too and start shaking, and then you explode with a love surge.
Again, warning, folks, if that seemed a bit too much for you and it churned your tummy, please leave the room. We don't want to have to send in a cleanup crew to clean up all the vomit. Please leave.
What
Don't
the
you?
fuck?
You're welcome. And that's the
Is
love
that
surge.
flow state?
So much love was just surged.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
Whatever happened?
Was that flow state? I'm
think
serious.
Jeep-
Like
I
my
think-
eyes
I
aren't
think
very
Jeep
good.
Girls, well, I think Jeep Girls got it. I think it was Jesse Howell and Angeline. But I did like the ending. So one more time, but please bear with us. It's only as a precaution. Please, if you're light on the tummy and stuff and easily churned, please leave.
What happened to men in society? It's videos like this that make China think that they can conquer us.
Want to see the cringiest, most coupley thing ever? This is called a love surge. And we do this when one of us has like so much love in our limbs that we can't contain it and feel like we're going to explode. So Sean is having a love surge right now, and he's going to wrap around me and shake with the electricity of love until I catch it too and start shaking, and then you explode with a love surge.
I feel so much better.
Don't you?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
At least
And that's
Jesse Howell gives us a rave.
Yeah. Yeah. This is disturbing.
This is straight cupcaking 100%.
Yeah. Well, and this
Who
is what we're
does
getting
that?
to in this. Yeah, this is what we're getting to in all of this ideology of thinking that things are bad enough, so we have to overcome it with these kind of actions. These kind of actions ain't gonna do nothing, folks. The only thing it does is show your fucking idiocy. It shows your mentality is a little off balance. That is not how this shit works.
A little off balance?
Yeah, you do not express love in that manner. That is not an expression of love. That is a performance as a way of coping. That's all that is. Here we go. Another Joe Rogan. Oh, I've always liked Joe Rogan.
They thought they were CNN, and CNN was huge. CNN is the news. CNN is a gigantic corporation, a big building, the whole deal, giant sign. They didn't
understand this. And this is where Paul and people like myself have them. Because it's not about the numbers. It's about what you understand and how it works. Because the numbers will automatically go the way they're supposed to go if you're pushing the right message of truth. The numbers will be for you. You don't need to be before the numbers. It's all about truth.
The numbers that count will be the numbers that you get.
Right. And that's according to your truth. So again, be as real as you can with yourself. And remember, folks, like I've said many times, the people that like me because I tell them the truth. The people that don't like me because I tell them the truth. Either way, you're going to get the truth. But on the other side of that, the ones that do like me, they also bear the brunt of all that angry yelling and stuff too, because that's how I get on them. That's why they know I love them as much as I do, because I can't stand to see them fall. So even if I mention a small thing, take it to heart so I don't have to get so upriled about it and yell about it, because I truly do want them to be my friend. I truly do want you to be my friend. But what I'm saying is you do not want to be my friend. I want you to be my friend, but I guarantee you, you do not want to be my friend, because 98% of the people cannot stand up to the truth. And the other 2% that can, 98% of them can't stand up to the way I express it and the way I demand it. And I'm telling you, I don't demand it of any others unless I demand it of myself.
That's
10 times
the purest form of love that you could possibly have, is what love thy neighbor as yourself. Judge not, lest ye be judged. By the measure in which you judge, so therefore will you be judged. If you're a man like you, like myself, in places, like Paul in places, like the gentleman, I don't know him, but I've seen him on panel, and he seems to be a reputable guy. If you're that type of guy, to judge somebody with frustration and get your shit together, that's the judgment that I want. If you see me fucking up, you better fucking say something.
Yeah, and that's I'll do a reading of John 8 verses 14 through 20 here in a minute. But that's the basic principle, is holding each other up to the responsibility of being able to take care of yourself. because I don't want to have to sit here and be the one to keep telling you you're fucking up. One day you're going to have to be able to look at yourself and tell yourself that you're fucking up, and not have to depend on somebody else telling you or be offended when somebody else tells you. You'll be able to take on that task by yourself. And it's an important one.
Larger than them. And it was exposed during that whole thing where they just made this terrible chess move. They just ran out in the middle with their king. That's how I found myself in the middle of all this. That's how I found myself having conversations with Peter McCullough and Robert Malone and a lot of other people, a lot of very intelligent people that weren't crazy. They weren't tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists or QAnon believers. They were just intelligent people that had looked at all the data and had said, I think we're being lied to.
And that's all it takes. Just learning how to look at the data and say, hey, I think there's a lie in here somewhere. Let me do some research so I can stop believing a lie if that's what it is. But people are not willing to do that. They're willing to put up with the lie rather than do the work to get it out of there so that other people behind them can follow up in truth as well. They don't hold themselves up to that bar. They're willing to accept the lie. I'm not. I'm not willing to accept one lie, let alone a multitude. Not going to do it. Now, the next one, set of jokes before we get into a serious, it's about a 6.5 minute video as it relates to trafficking, we'll say for now. But I wanted to lighten the mood here a little quick with a couple of my favorite guys again in regards to the comedy section.
Starts with F and ends with K. I said, no, it doesn't. A polar bear walks into a bar. Bartender, I'll take a rum and Coke. Bartender says, what's with the pause?
I was born with them.
Polar bear says, I was born with them.
So the first one again.
My wife said to me, what starts with F and ends with K? I said, no, it doesn't.
That's obvious. Okay, one quick reminder, please hit that like, share, and subscribe button, folks. We are up on Keith Little, El Perro, and Hecklebus again. So if you're on one or the other, get to the others and do the same. There's a couple PayPal links down in the details section for anybody that wants to share some love. I always appreciate it. 10, 20, 30 bucks, everything helps. And then, of course, the StreamYard link is pinned in case anybody else wants to join the panel. And we're going to get on to the next one. Now, the next one is, as I said, as it relates to trafficking. You can see by the title what we're going to be talking about. And the fellow that's speaking, I hold him in high regard. But again, I want to remind everybody, even these top officials and people that have been in these various different agencies and departments in the government that show their good-heartedness, that you can still see the babble in them in the way they speak, because they aren't truly fully capable of the language yet. But yet, even with their heart, they're closer to the truth than most everybody else. So while I do mention that he babbles, I'm not going to pay attention to it quite so much, because again, it's not listening to the messenger, but the message. And if the message is clear enough, you can dismiss a little bit of babble. I mean, not totally dismiss it. You still have to hold it against him. If I ever get a chance to meet the guy, that'll be one of the premises of my communications with him, is to help him correct the language, as it would be with anybody. But at the same time, like I said, he's got a heart. He's doing what's right. And that's the true communication. That's what we should listen to. Actions speak louder than words.
Green, Ranking Member Thompson, and members of the Homeland Security Committee, it's an honor to testify here today. I'd like to begin by showing you a powerful clip from the popular film Sound of Freedom.
Oh yeah, that's a old picture. You know how kids are these days. They just grow up so fast.
That's him.
No, I'm his uncle. Get off, put your hands on the wheel. No, I'm his uncle. You just ask him. Just ask him. I'm his uncle.
Hold on.
This scene depicts a moment from my real life I'll never forget. I was working for the Department of Homeland Security out of Calexico, California, and I can tell you firsthand that the only reason we were able to save this precious little boy was due to the fact that they had to take him across the border at a port of entry checkpoint because the border walls compelled them to do so. The horrors a child faces as a victim of human trafficking demand that we take action. A child can be sold up to 20 times a day, 6 days a week, for 10 years or even longer, depending when the abuse began. Just in 2022 alone, immigration authorities encountered more than 152,000 unaccompanied minors at or near the US-Mexico border, representing an all-time high.
Of which almost half have gone missing.
I believe every member of this committee and people everywhere can agree that human trafficking is a plague and an evil that must be eradicated. Evidence of this can be seen in the response to the movie Sound of Freedom, based on my life story, which has been a surprise box office success and is sparking a national conversation on child sex slavery and trafficking, the fastest growing criminal enterprise on the planet.
Fastest growing criminal enterprise. They literally call it a criminal enterprise.
The conclusions I offer in this testimony are based on my professional experience as an anti-trafficking operator. After starting my professional career with the CIA, I transferred to the Department of Homeland Security.
So he worked both for the CIA and Department of Homeland Security. So again, we're talking about officials that are highly up in the ranks and should be competent of a 24th grade reading comprehension, let alone plain English. So pay attention to his comments here.
DHS, I spent 12 years as a special agent and undercover operator for Homeland Security investigations. After leaving the federal government, I have continued the fight against human trafficking, first as the founder and CEO of the organization Operation Underground Railroad, and now as a senior advisor to the Spear Fund, which is an organization that funds and collaborates with experts, organizations, and concerned citizens around the globe to fight and end human trafficking. Traffickers use our southern border to bring slaves into our country for the sex industry because the United States is one of the highest consumers in child sex abuse material in the world.
The United States is one of the highest consumers in child sex abuse material in the world. And again, folks, it goes to the grammar, the intellect, plain writing, and the true material facts that the United States is located in Washington, D.C. So when he talks about he's one of the highest consumers in child sex abuse material in the world being the United States, he's not talking about the United States as it is the United States located in Washington, D.C., but the people that are using the instrumentalities of paperwork and documentation as consumers. And it's because of that consumerian concept that children are being trafficked because they are valuable in that monetary enterprise. It is called kidnapping and making merchandise, or stealing children of Israel and making merchandise of them. It's called kidnapping. Child slavery, child sex slavery, sex abuse, period. It's the ultimate offense against God's law. Destroying God's children before they even have a chance to develop their spiritual essence and know that they too are from the Heavenly Father.
Our federal agents who work at the southern border are women and men of the highest integrity and dedication. Yet despite the hard work and success agents on the ground, one thing has become vividly clear. Poor U.S. border security and broken U.S. policy are feeding the growth of human trafficking in the United States.
Again, policy are feeding the growth of human trafficking in the United States. Where is the United States? If these people really knew this, they wouldn't be speaking like this. If they were really speaking the truth and they knew the truth about this, and they're speaking truth about the child trafficking, and policies are feeding the growth of human trafficking, then they would also correct the language here to be accurate as well. So again, it's nothing against his actual message, which is a good message. It's just pointing out that even though these people are supposedly highly respected and highly intelligent, they show a segment of babble in their communication still, telling us that they don't fully comprehend. So again, while it might be good to want to try to prevent the human trafficking, we've got to remember he created an organization. In other words, it was organized under the laws of the United States. And just like we talked on Paul's earlier, it's about tracking the person. So now he's subject to giving up all of those records to the United States, which he's willing to do because that's what he thinks his purpose is in stopping the human trafficking. If you really want to stop the human trafficking, you fix the record and make sure that the documentation is accurate, even for immigrants. That's what prevents those immigrants from coming in here, is knowing that what's going to happen to their children. They think they're coming across that border to give their children a free life, a life living under their own authority, but their lives are being snatched away as soon as they cross the border. This is not the way to do it, folks.
If you really think about it, the other word for human trafficking is slavery.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. And that's that ball thing, you know, Babylonian, sacrificing the children to the Babylonian king. Gotta quit doing that.
Sense of physical barriers on our border. I have personally seen how ports of entry were responsible for helping rescue a child, catch a sexual predator, and start a chain of events that rescued multiple children from his abuse. On the other hand, I've spoken with survivors who were trafficked by cartels, taking advantage of the miles of unprotected U.S. border. In one case in particular, a young woman was brought across the border at an area where no barriers or protections existed. Once in the U.S., she was sold and raped for money up to 30 to 40 times a day for 5 years before eventually escaping herself. She shared with me the tragic conclusion that had her captors been forced to attempt a crossing into our country at the port of entry, just like the little boy you saw in the film, that she would have had a better chance of being rescued. But the success we've seen in interdicting human trafficking at points of entry means nothing if our immigration policies allow traffickers to flaunt legal loopholes.
Immigration policies allow traffickers to flaunt legal loopholes. The problem with that is they have legal loopholes for those that are in the trafficking. They are the policy makers. They are the ones trafficking persons. They are the ones making the trafficking laws.
So they know it's rigged because they use it?
Yes. If you don't want your children to be rigged, then don't use the system that's rigged. Because when they rig your children, they're going to rig them up to devices for slavery. Period. It's called earmarking.
Recently, members of Congress sounded the alarm on information that the government has lost track of 85,000 minors that crossed the border.
Lost track of 85,000 minors. Now, remember, I just told you almost half of them come up missing. The 150 or so thousand migrants that came across that border, and half of them are children, migrant children that came across that, and almost half of them are missing. That's where I got that. 85,000 minors that cross the border unaccompanied are missing. They're gone. They don't know where they're at.
And the New York Times reported that the Department of Health and Human Services has lost contact with thousands of children who were released to sponsors that are now, and these children are now feared of being risk for exploitation. Just in May alone, U.S. Customs and Border Protection encountered an average of 435 unaccompanied minors per day.
435 unaccompanied minors per day. These people think that sending those children across the border is going to give them a good life. They're sending them off into slavery and sexual trafficking.
These children are prime targets for traffickers for sex or labor. Tragically, as a result of this administration's current policies, DHS and HHS have unwittingly become a child trafficking delivery service.
And therefore, again, like I just said, it's these policymakers that are doing it. They're the ones that make the trafficking laws. They're the ones that provide for those loopholes. They're the ones that unwittingly become child trafficking delivery service because it's other people that see their loopholes. And then they've got ignorant judges sitting on the bench that want to use those loopholes so they don't close them. They've got teachers sitting in schools that they want teaching your children so they don't close them. They create inconsistencies with like things like DWI and DUI and public intoxication, so that the obfuscation comes to the point where it applies to everybody who's willing to subject themselves to it because they don't know what it really means, so they have to accept what somebody else is saying about it. That's bullshit. Quit believing
What
that.
I think is really interesting is they give you a DUI and a DWI. Meanwhile, the doctors are giving you something like an MAOI inhibitor. But yet people that consume a product such as cannabis are doing a drug. It's just ironic because of the wording.
Yep. And that's like Alcoholics Anonymous. A lot of those members will refuse to admit that they're addicts. They're not addicts. They're alcoholics. Sorry. An alcoholic is addicted to the substance known as alcohol. That's the only difference. It's still an addiction.
Yep. Just like just like TV can be, just like anything else can be.
Food, activities.
Hell, even these panels can be fucking addictive.
Absolutely.
Stop. We must begin with finding the 85,000 missing unaccompanied children, which this administration claims is not their problem anymore.
Sickening how they do that. They administrate the laws that are legislated, admit there's a problem, but say it's not theirs. See, that goes to that point of these judges that are willing to pass these laws and say, but it's not their problem. That's just the law. No, you're the one that passed it against Romans 13:1. For there is no power but that which is ordained of God. If you didn't put consideration of God into that legislation first, then that legislation shouldn't have been made. So now take a look at that record and see how there's 9 million codes, and then try to compare it to one book known as the Scriptures and see how overabundantly they've legislated and regulated everything in existence as if though it has a spiritual context in that legislation when it has zero spiritual context. It's all in person. They're all laws for persons, not the living soul, period.
Congressman Smith's Secure Act will help find them by holding HHS, DHS, and the FBI responsible for reporting on the status of the unaccounted for children.
Unaccounted for. It's an accounting. They have to create an accounting. And so what happens is they created an accounting when those children came in. They've got a logistical number and some names, but then it doesn't, it ends. Well, it's no longer our problem then, because now there's no longer an administrative record. So we don't have anything to administrate. You see the problem there? That's the legal loophole. Those children
Aren't they the ones that are holding the ledger books though?
Yes, but if those children go missing and there's nothing put on the administrative accounting and ledgering, then they have nothing to administrate. Guess what though? I bet a lot of those kids will show up when they're 18 and those sponsors don't want to keep supporting them because they're no longer getting a check, and now they're going to be a source of labor for the New Deal. You watch 2030.
The Secure Act will require these agencies to work together to locate them, assess their exposure to being trafficked, exploited, or abused, and to vet adults in their new homes for criminal activity. We pray all these kids will be found safe, but in my expert judgment, a significant number of them do not need to be merely found, but rescued from actual and active sexual abuse. Once we find these children and rescue those in need, we will be in a better position to reform the failed policies and processes that put them in the hands of abusers to begin with.
See, he's admitting, and nobody's objecting or denying it, that it's the process that's putting these children in danger. I urge you again, moms and dads, to think about the enumeration at birth. It's an immigration process, and that's what puts your children in danger.
It's all of the children, though. All of the children of the Creator are in danger because of this kind of legislation that we care not to dismember. He talks about it needs to be reassessed. No, it needs to be rewritten altogether. Like, get rid of what we currently have, because obviously it is not of any kind of success. Otherwise, we would not be having these kinds of conversations.
Yep, absolutely.
So it literally needs to be completely removed and revamped. I know doing construction, if I'm putting up a new deck, the old deck has to come down in order for the new stuff to be put in.
Yeah, and when you look at the Postal Service Reform Act of 2022, as I said, 90% of that is about insurance, Medicaid and Medicare. And so when we look at the Social Security laws, we also see current changes in the Social Security laws. So when you're doing your research appropriately and you see a change in one venue, you can correlate it to the changes in the other venues as well. And that's when you can make the connections and correlations and use them effectively to form proper rebuttals in various different commercial attacks or offers, I'll call them. I shouldn't call them attacks, but commercial offers. So we really have to think about this. It's so much more complex than the common man thinks, that it supersedes the common man.
Real freedom is not a phone number in the pocket of a child for an unknown sponsor or a dangerous trek across South and Central America. Real freedom is safety and protection from abuse and abusers for our most vulnerable population, our children, our future. Thank you.
The most vulnerable population, the children, which are our future. And again, they're not my children. They're not your children. They're not your neighbor's children. They're not your mom and dad's children. You're not your mom and dad's child. In a sense, that's what the record will reflect. But in reality, we are all children of, quote, God, unquote, which is, according to my research, Ruach HaKodesh, which means the source of life. We are all products of the source of life. And as that, source of life is our authority. That's what gives rise to our life. That's what gives motivation to our life, is that we weren't born in death. We were born in life for a purpose of living, period. And with that, we come to, goodness, it's been over an hour and a half, a little bit longer than I thought it would be. But again, I appreciate everybody. Moonbug, 2MW, OTW just finally showed up. Kara, always good to see you. Channel 3, Mark Jones, NJ Jeep Girl, always good to see everybody. I appreciate your support. Be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Please tag that PayPal link and share some love, folks. Get this out there, spread the numbers, get this message growing. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about the source of life and continuing that and our place in doing that. If we're not helping that, then we're denying it. What do you guys got to say before we head out?
Be wise always and be a zero.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you much for coming up, Nubs. Always appreciate you. Have yourself a good day, brother.
I think I'm just going to continue to roll through the communities as I do, and encourage people to be the change they wish to see. That's all I can do.
Yep, I hear you. And with that, folks, I am going to come back here in a little bit. Got a video I want to go over. It's going to be under the 17 US 107 again. As far as commentary and public opinion and all that, fair use. With the right frequency, anything is possible. The knowledge of vibration. Again, coin your words or purse your lips. The way you speak creates certain toroidal currents, and they do have a, quote, butterfly, unquote, effect on things around you. It is a manifestation. And with the right vibrations, you can do many things. So I'm going to speak a little bit on the Rife machine that I got. It's called a GB4000 as it relates to my own cancer experience and various other things. And so we'll be back with that video here in a short little bit. So remember, folks, I love you, but I don't give a fuck whether you love me back. Be blessed. Have a good night, and hopefully we'll see you again here shortly. Bye now.